aiming to take off, what are the biggest challenges you think need to be combated? So, you each want to try and, what do you think is the biggest challenge to making it absolute mainstream?
Really, from a software developer standpoint, it's hardware saturation. You know, when you're making the content for a 3D game, it's more expensive to render, so you end up having to make the 2D, which is still 3D kind of version of it, either less impressive or have effects that can be turned on and off depending on your performance peaks. So that does impact your whole cycle in designing the game. So we would want to see a decent saturation of the hardware in place, I think, before that effort. You know, choosing to make your game kind of dumbed down, if you will, from a graphics standpoint, so you can render it in stereo, is kind of a viable decision.
Okay.
I mean, I'll answer from our perspective. You know, I think hardware is very important. Obviously, you know, we've been selling 3D kits on the PC for almost 2 years now, specifically targeted for it. We've been a big proponent of, I think, 2 parts to the 3D story, which I know Sony is probably pretty important to them as well. Quality. I mean, it kind of goes as an understatement that you know, people loved 3D in the theater and Avatar specifically because the quality of the 3D was so good, right? You went into the theater, the quality of the projector, the rendering that James Cameron did, they all looked beautiful, and you didn't walk out of it going, man, it didn't look right, there was ghosting, or boy, my eyes hurt because something was going wrong. And it's pretty important to have a quality product out there from everywhere down to the display, to the glasses, to the graphics, the rendering, the drivers. It's got to be a quality product. If it doesn't work, people aren't going to buy it. The second thing, actually, which I know Sony spends a lot of money on, it, we don't have as big as budget as Sony, but we try to do what we can, is a lot of it is on education and marketing. I think a lot of people just don't know that they can do 3D, and it's a lot about education about how they can get it, making it easy to use so that they know when they go into the store and they say, boy, I'd like to buy something that can do 3D, you've got a pretty easy solution for them, and they don't need to go, you know, they don't, the first reaction isn't to go to the forums or go to the message boards or go to some place to figure out what it is they need to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with the hardware saturation, but obviously it's a chicken and egg situation with content. So, I mean, one of the things that really bums me out right now is the fact that if you want to get Avatar on DVD, the only way to do it is to buy a Panasonic TV.
Right, buy a TV, otherwise you can't.
So, I mean, hopefully the TV manufacturers will sort that out and make it easier for Blu-rays to become available without having to purchase them with a TV. Well, yeah, but
I've given you hard.
I mean, well, one of the issues that I see that is possibly, it's all about sort of creating negative backlashes, and like obviously in the 50s and with the 70s of Jaws and things, it was like quality started to break down, and people said, look, it's a gimmick, but I'm not getting the quality. We're now definitely seeing the quality games coming through on the PC and through Sony. There's some really good things. But one thing that worries me, and it just happened literally as I came in here, I was talking about the glasses, and somebody said, I'm going to keep these glasses for when I buy a TV. Well, one of the things that we've got to educate people about is the fact that the TVs that you buy in the shops will be very different from the TVs we have here. And I mean, it came up this morning in the panel, it's like, people don't realise that there's different technologies to bringing 3D into the home. And if you buy a Sony TV, you can't go and use your Samsung 3D glasses, and you most certainly can't use the glasses you got from the cinema. And I think that's a challenge. But I'm not supposed to be answering, am I? Theoretically, we could work out that they're 120 Hz TVs and glasses that just have LCD shutters. Shouldn't really cost that much, should it?
I'll answer, and let me begin by saying things are much better now than they were before. If we look at some of the successes in the 3D industry as it stands now, you know, Blu-ray was, in my opinion, was a cooperative effort. I mean, the biggest, baddest, if you call them frenemies in the world, were willing to get together in a room and agree on a standard for the Blu-ray standard. Video games and the gaming industry as a whole, as it stands now, is still very proprietary. I mean, Sony has its Sony experience, Xbox has its own positioning. Nvidia has its own positioning. AMD has its own positioning.
Not to mention Nintendo's positioning.
Exactly. So from a consumer's point of view, this, granted, these are all value pioneers, and we all wouldn't be here today. But from a consumer's point of view, it does create confusion in the market. For game developers, it's an extra step for them to find a way to support all the different 3D solutions in the market. And for quality expectations, it's not the artist who's making the decisions. It's actually the manufacturers that put out the products. So if we were going to look at these earlier successes, which would be samples like Blu-ray or the cinema standards and so on, these are all very much cooperative efforts. And I think that our hill would be a much shorter climb if there was a way to find a way for the companies to work together.
I'm certainly, I'm so pleased that Sony and the HDMI committee worked together to do one decent standard, because we did make our game work on all the different TVs, and it was an absolute nightmare and a hassle, because 2 years ago, every 3D TV you could buy had a different input standard. It's all now one. Thank goodness for that.
Well, actually, HDMI, there's still work to be done. I mean, for console, of course, fantastic. 720p works with Xbox, PlayStation 3. I mean, if Xbox does, whatever they would do. For PC gamers, it's a little more challenged. I mean, PC gamers like to play at 1080p, full frame, left, right. HDMI 1.4, I'm unaware if that has a standard for that. So there's still work to be done.
There's quite a lot of work on the PC, I must admit.
Yes.